throughout the country. You know, diesel, gasoline, jet fuel. Um, yeah, I've done doing a lot of fun things. My daughter plays in the WNBA, so I go to her a lot of her games and check her out and watch her play, and it just reminds me of back in the day. So gets my blood going like it used to back when we used to play. I mean, talk about luck, being at the right place at the right time. Definitely worked out for me with the Canes, and I love all you guys.
Thank you. Pass the torch down the line. Who's next?
Who's talking next, Albert?
Yo.
Let's hear from Rodney Bellinger.
Okay.
You're looking good, Eddie. Come on, Rodney.
Hey, everybody. I hope everybody's doing fine. My story, that when I first came to Miami, I wasn't heavily recruited, and I remember my senior year. Nobody was recruiting me. I wanted to play for Miami very badly, and I started sitting down writing letters. And I wrote a letter to the University of Miami, and the letter was to Coach Schnellenberger and telling him how much I was a forgotten football player, and I thought I could come to Miami and help them win a national championship. Fast forwarding it, after we won the championship, Coach gave me the letter back. And that struck me so deeply that he kept that letter. He kept that letter, and that was my boyhood dream, to play with you guys and play for Coach, and get a chance to play, be coached by Coach Archer, who now, as an older man, how great of a job everybody did. That 1 year in 1983, we did such a great job. But I have a family. I'm married. I moved to Augusta, Georgia. My wife came up with a plan. Oh, let's move to Augusta, Georgia. And I told her, no, I wasn't going. I'm not going to Augusta, Georgia. I'm coaching high school football down here. I'm gonna go ahead and teach school down here. I went back and got my degree over at Miami. And once I got to Augusta, I found out this young lady went to, the reason she had me go to Augusta, because she wanted to bond with her family. She hadn't bonded with her family since she was a little girl, and she ended up being the godfather of soul, James Brown's daughter. That's why we ended up in Augusta. So now I'm fast forward, I'm in Conyers, Georgia. We bought a house in Conyers, and me and my wife wanted to not only buy a home, we wanted to start a business. This was my second life. I was starting all over again, and I ended up I got sick. And I had some heart problems, and doing better. Lost about 40 pounds. I was up to 320 pounds. So I'm down to 275. Walking, exercising. And Coach, thanks for calling me. Coach Hartree, thanks for calling me. I tried to call you back. got calls from guys. You know, I love all you guys, and I'm glad to be here and be a part of this family. I'm always proud to be able to talk and be amongst you guys.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Everything is going good with you. Who's next?
We're gonna have to wind down in a second here because we're about to put on the intro and get the show started.
They're gonna let the public in now. The public in, so they other people from the internet.
Oh, so we're gonna tell our story again.
Yeah. Oh no, it's gonna be way funner than that.
Yeah.
You're about to have a good time.
They're gonna put it on the radio and TV.
Hey, Rodney, before we get going live on this, with your health journey, man, Bernie here, give me a shout offline, man. Eddie, tell you, we're doing a lot of good stuff with the holistic medicine I'd love to hook you up if you need some help, brother.
Good.
Okay, Bernie.
I know the feeling. All those surgeries.
All
He's
right.
helped me out too. I've been through it too, man. It's good stuff.
Hey, Bernie.
Good stuff, Bird.
We're gonna get Brof back on the clinic. As soon as now we got this social distancing thing, hopefully in the past, we can get our health back together.
Absolutely. It's good stuff, man. Again, make me feel better. I felt better lately than I've had in a long time. So that's good stuff.
I think T.O. finally done got in here. Coach Oliver Gotti, you need to
We need to tell Tom all the data. We got to tell Coach O to put his video on.
Welcome to the Sideline to Baseline show with MB and K. Lou. I'm your host, K. Lou, and my co-host just walked out on me, y'all, is MB. Man, we got a great show today. We got those 1983 Miami Hurricanes, man. They're in the building.
We got the K's over here.
In the building, y'all. Roll call. Here it goes. We got Coach Tom Olivadotti, Coach Mark Tessner. We got Coach Mike Archer, Jay Brophy, Rodney Bellinger, Tony Fitzpatrick, Kevin Fagan, Albert Bentley, Coach Gary Stevens, Bernie Kosar downtown. You already know the rest. Eddie Brown, Alonzo Highsmith, Melvin Bradden, the real MB. I think the real MB in the building. I'm going to be confused all night here. Colbert Bain, Kenny Calhoun, Darren McCurry, Jack Fernandez, and man, I think I might be missing somebody. Cue the video, Taylor.
Now it can be told, Howard Schnellenberger was not born with a pipe in his mouth. But he was born a winner, and throughout his career, he made people around him winners. From 1979 through 1983, he changed the way people looked at University of Miami football, and the way the Hurricanes looked at themselves. In 1979, he accepted the challenge of rebuilding the Hurricanes. His defensive line coach, Harold Allen.
He brought a lot of leadership, maybe from the Dolphins with Don Shula, and everything was. He brought it to college, was also business.
Former Canes offensive lineman Don Bailey.
He got out of people what no one else could get out of you. Howard took you to as far as you could go, then a couple more steps, and then he would back off on it. There was a mystique. Howard Schnellenberger has a mystique about him, but that's what makes him great.
That mystique began with Miami's shocking upset of Penn State in 1979 behind freshman quarterback Jim Kelly. Soon the wins began to accumulate. In 1980, a game-ending field goal and a 31-7 win over Florida. In 1981, 17-14 over top-ranked Penn State. And a 9-2 season was capped with a win over Notre Dame. But 2 seasons later, there was uncertainty as the Hurricanes opened 83 with a freshman quarterback and a 28-3 loss at Florida.
We started off the year and got ambushed up in Florida. Nice. It was, it scared everybody because you wondered what was going to happen after that. But we just kept getting better and better every week.
Kozar on the play action, deep down the middle to Brown. He's there. Brown's on the way. This will be a touchdown. 73 yards. Eddie Brown.
Then goes off tackle to the right. And Bentley gets in the end zone for Miami. They picked it up well. Brown, touchdown.
The wins kept coming, and in the season's 9th game, the Hurricanes beat West Virginia to stake their claim for a major bowl game.
I can't say very much except this. The only one tried to get me was Maryland. Nobody in the world thought you could come this far. Nobody in the wildest dream thought you could do it. Except everybody here. You know, there's an old saying when you get in the top of the 9th inning, 2 outs, and you got your best pitcher up there, and he drives that first one by him. Strike 1, and that's today. Tomorrow, next Saturday, strike 2. And then up in Tallahassee, strike 3, and you're in.
But next week, Miami found itself trailing East Carolina in the 4th quarter.
50 short dog Z takeoff. Can you get that in there? 50 short dog Z takeoff.
Kozar on the drop. Bernie looking, firing long. Bomb! Brown there! Got it! And out of bounds!
What do you call?
I don't know. A jam in the middle. Kozar himself. The touchdown, Miami! Bernie Kozar!
The next week, on the final play of the season's final game, Jeff Davis's field goal put the Hurricanes in the Orange Bowl against top-ranked Nebraska.
Second and short, like a free play down the middle. Dennison, he scores! Bernie takes, gives Bentley 5, 3, 2. Touchdown, Miami! You're right down to the guts of it right here, friends. 31-30, going for 2. Gill takes, looks, rolls, throws, deflected away! Deflected away! These guys did it because they knew they could.
I'll tell you right now, school's out. This place up for grabs.
I think you could see out there in that stadium tonight what it really meant to this community and how totally involved and totally committed they were to this game tonight. This has been a love affair that's been developing for 5 years. And tonight was the fulfillment of a dream that, I say fulfillment, it might just be the beginning of a dream.
Guys, the man of the hour, the man of 1983, the man who put the U in the University of Miami. Stand to your feet for Coach Howard and Beverly Schnellenberger. All right, players and coaches, talk to us about the good, the great, and the best about Coach Schnellenberger. T.O., you want to kick us off?
One thing I liked about Coach was he's the same every day, win or lose. As long as he had trust in you, you were in good shape. That was my favorite thing about him. I worked for a lot of coaches. He was the same every day. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
All right, Coach Mark Tessman. Coach Tessman.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's a really a privilege and a heartfelt privilege to be with everybody. Coach and I have stayed in contact over the years, and the thing I learned from Coach is his heart was in every decision that he made, and he was tough. He was tough on all of us, but he was as straight as they come, as honest as they come, and a leader in the truest sense. And while I have 30 seconds, I've got to acknowledge Mike Archer from the coaching staff who really sent me over to see Coach Schnellenberger. And Coach Schnellenberger asked me, he said, you want to be an agent, don't you? And I said, no, I just want to help out with a football team. I want to thank Tom Olividati for all those racquetball games that we had, and somebody that really I hold dear to my heart that's on today is Gary Stevens, who did an amazing coaching job as the offensive coordinator and a play caller, unselfish, let you do your job, and but it all started with Coach Schnellenberger. He's the guy who put the U on his shoulders. And, with a little bit of help from everybody in this call tonight and everybody who was on that team, support staff, coaches, he carried us all on his shoulders. And, we became a family today and have been a family because of how he lifted all of us up in 1983.
Thank you, Coach Archer.
Hello.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let me just start by telling everyone it's great to see so many faces that I haven't seen in such a long time. And my story goes back with Coach Schnellenberger. I played there. I went there in 1971, and I saw what the program was then and what we got it to with Coach Schnellenberger and how far it came. And it took a lot of work and a lot of determination, a lot of friendships. And I've done this 45 years. I've worked for Coach Tressman the last 4 years in Canada and here in the XFL this year. And I watched what we did at Miami and take a program that was on the verge. I was a graduate assistant with Carl Selmer, and the program, when we got fired in the Astrodome by our president during a hockey game, and to see where the program came through Coach Schnellenberger, a lot of hard work came into play. And one of the greatest things that I remember about Howard was the first game of the 83 championship team at Florida after the 28-3 loss. We were all gathered in that little locker room in Gainesville, and we had been with Howard previously, and we had won a lot of games. And as we sat there and we kneeled and I listened to what Coach said, he was very calm. And he said, we have a chance to be a really good football team. We have a very young offense, a very young quarterback. They're only going to get better. Our defense had really played well that night. And he said, we're going to need the defense to take us early in the season. And I kind of looked around and I said, we just got beat 28-3. But he never changed. Like Tom said, he never really changed. And we came in the next day. We got ready to go to work, and I think we played Purdue the next week, and we took it from there. And his comment was, we're going to win the next 11 games, and we're going to get into the national championship hunt.
Wow.
He predicted it, and you guys all know what I'm talking about. You were in that locker room. He said that, and I've never forgotten that because I actually thought he was crazy. But we ended up, through a lot of hard work and a lot of faith and a lot of trust in doing it, and it was all culminated that night in the Orange Bowl. And to see the Orange Bowl rocking like that was unbelievable for me because I played in the Orange Bowl in front of 8,000 people or 10,000 people. So it's a credit to everybody, and I'm just thankful for all the friendships and the relationships that I've been able to enjoy over these 45 years of coaching.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Stevens.
On mute. All right, you hear me?
Yeah.
We got you.
All right. A few things here about Howard is he taught the coaches how to become good coaches. Not only the players, but the coaches. And by teaching us, we taught you. So he was a great teacher for the coaches and the players. The thing that he did was he drove you. He drove you beyond expectations of yourself, because everybody in football thinks they're great, but he coached you to be great, not ordinary. He coached you to be great. That's what he did with the players and the coaches. And it was a privilege coaching for him. And I'll tell you what, he had a great coaching staff that worked their ass off and worked you guys, but it all came from Howard. And it's Howard, I want to thank you for letting me coach with you. It was the best coaching job ever. And that game is the best game I ever was involved in. And I think it goes for all of us. That was a great here. When we listen to this in the Orange Bowl, I'm upstairs with Joe Brodsky. The game was over. You got to go down the elevators to get through. So Joe says, let's have a cigarette and relax and wait a while. So let the traffic go by. Let it go by, and then we'll go down, and we'll be able to get downstairs and walk. Half hour goes by. We get up to go. Nobody left the stadium. They were all still in the stadium. We got in the elevator, went right down and walked right to the locker room. Everybody was in. That's what a great game that was. What an impact you put on the University of Miami and the city of Miami and the state of Florida. And all because of Coach Schnellenberger. Thank you.
Wow. All right. Jay Brophy.
Jay, unmute yourself, baby. Jay, unmute yourself.
Bottom left.
We got to help him out. We need Miss Myrna over there helping him out. Somebody. Jay, oh. Good Lord.
I got it. There we go. It takes me a while. I'm a caveman with this stuff. I'm an in-person person. But, the biggest thing with Coach with me is he probably in some way saved my life, because if everybody remembers, after my freshman year, being 19 years old, of course, I knew everything about life and decided I was going to go, which Coach Abadati calls my sabbatical, where I told Coach and met with him and said, you know what? I don't think this program, this school, this football thing, everything's for me. I thought I had everything figured out at 19. Well, I left that following year. Unbeknownst to me, Coach had left my scholarship open with my parents and let them know that it'd be available. But I think he realized I needed to find out on my own. Well, I did. I worked in a rubber factory in West Helena, Arkansas for $5 an hour. And I remember walking out over the Mississippi Bridge and going, what the hell did I do? All right, well, I came home and I made that phone call to Hubbard Alexander, God rest his soul. And he said, hey, listen, you guys read the Peach Bowl. And he said, when we get back, we'll talk to Coach through all this. Well, long story short, I get back and I had to learn to rededicate myself. And I figured how much I missed everything. Well, to tell you how things work out and how this happened with Coach, I lettered as freshman. I would have been out of eligibility if I had played my sophomore year. Right. But by getting the redshirt year, I got that fifth year and got a chance to play for the national championship. I carry this story with me in over 30 years of coaching. And I tell kids, because I try to understand that everybody sometimes deserves that second shot. You don't save everybody. Things don't always work out. But I remember that intensely. The rest is with these guys and coaches. I based my whole 30 years of experience coaching on this team here and these coaches. Coach Abadati taught me everything I needed to know about linebacker. Coach Schnellenberger taught me everything about being a man and an honest coach. I tell you, that's what I loved about Coach. You may love to hate it because sometimes you don't want to hear the real word, but he told you exactly what he thought. And that is the best way I can ever convey anything to anybody. And the greatest thing was our team was a bunch of characters, but characters with character. I loved each and every one of you. Like I said, I took it in a street fight because we worked like dogs out there. But I tell you what, there was none tougher than the guys I played with out there. I said, Coach O taught me everything I know. And I apologize because I did so much to him. I mean, I was always talking. But in that huddle, and I'll tell you the last thing that I want to make sure everybody realizes. They said I was an All-American on that 83 defensive team. No, I'm not. That's just paperwork. We have a ton of All-Americans on that 83 defensive squad. And if it wasn't for Fitzy up front taking up those blocks and keeping me clean, thanks, Fitz, and the rest of our team playing the way it was, I was a good player on a great team. And that's the bottom line. That is what's so special about this 83 team. I think we had the most diversity as far as people, race, creed, and color than in the nation at that time. But I tell you what, you talk about a template of how to win with a bunch of people that people considered maybe not the best, it shouldn't have been in the championship, all those things, and a guy had a vision. He sold me on, he said, within the 5th year, we'll challenge for the national championship. I mean, that stuff doesn't happen. It happened for a reason. And this is my favorite story to share with everybody. This 83 team and this coaching staff and Coach Schnellenberger is the reason I am where I am 30 plus years of coaching and trying to talk to kids and doing all that. My journey was meant to be. It was unconventional. It was meant to be that way for I could go into coaching and help work with kids that had problems, people that had problems. And it's been a joy ever since, man. I love you guys more now than I ever did. I really feel closer to you guys than anybody. I'm just a football coach at heart who loves working with kids. Coaches gave me that opportunity, all of you. And I tell you, the coaches did a hell of a job. And every one of the players, I said, I was a good player on a great team. And I'll take that anytime.
Hey, thank you, Rodney Bellinger.
I guess I gotta kind of agree with Coach Archer. I remember the Florida game, we got beat 28-3. And Coach said that, you know, we could have won that game. I was confused more than anybody on that team. I know a lot of guys in the locker room was looking at one another and said, wow, we could have won that game. But the one thing that I remember that we believed them. And we had some seniors that got together and we met and we vowed to never let the younger guys down. And we were gonna play each and every game and made sure that the younger guys can believe in us and follow behind us. And we worked our tails off. I worked my tail off for Coach Archer in individual drills, trying to be a leader. But one of the things that baffled me and confused me more than anything, Coach called me in his office one morning and said, Rodney, we're going to put Reggie Sutton at weak corner. So it's a red shirt freshman that barely can make it through most of the summer practices because Coach started the periods over. and that guy wasn't used to that. And I was getting pretty pissed off at this young guy because I felt like he wasn't tough enough. He had great talent, great speed. He had everything that we needed at the corner position, but the guy hadn't had a lot of practice at corner, and we wasn't far from starting the season. And I was wondering, how this young man, I've been playing in the secondary for Coach Archer and Coach Schnellenberger for 3 years now. I'm a senior, and you know, I want to win the national championship. Is this young guy going to be tough enough, smart enough, and he's going to develop fast enough to give us what we need at that position? They had Eddie Brown over there going both ways, and once that swap happened, hey, you know, I was just dedicated to doing what Coach asked of me and doing what Coach Archer asked of me. Coach asked me to take the young man under my wing and help them out as much as I can. And one of the things Coach Archer and the rest of us developed, when the defensive play call during game time was called, and we broke the huddle, all three of us defensive backs, me, Eddie Williams, and Kenny Calhoun, would tell Reggie, if it's cover 2, hey man, you got the flats. You gotta squeeze and get depth. You know, we made sure right after every huddle break, we would tell this guy every single play. We didn't miss that one time, letting that young man know what his responsibilities were. And for those 4 guys and Coach Archer, the job that they did after the year before, and I played on some really good defensive secondary with Fred Mary and David Jefferson, Ronnie Lippett, and James Boone. But these guys focused, and they made plays. I mean, we graded out in the high 90s every game after the Florida game. Every game grading out high was our goal. And it became that young man's goal, Reggie Sutton. And he wasn't a weak link in our defense. He was, I mean, a big key in, you know, why our defense ended up being great. I mean, you know, you make a move like that, I felt was, you know, being a senior, you know, I believed in Coach Schnellenberger very much and Coach Archer very much. But, you know, throwing that young guy in there like that, you know, the other two guys, along with myself, Kenny Calhoun and Eddie Williams, I mean, we had to look each other in the eye and say, we got to make sure this guy play great and play every play great. And man, that's what stuck with me. And I can always take a story out of the time that I played football at the University of Miami and connect it with a situation in my life and come up with a solution. And it works out most of the time for myself. But that's one of the stories that I remember about Coach Schnellenberger calling me to his office, and I had to figure it out and be a team player and believe in Coach Archer and believe in Coach Schnellenberger that this thing was going to work out. But the last thing I want to say, somebody came up to me and said, "You know what, Rodney? Yeah, you were great at UM, but that Reggie Sutton was better than you."
Well, hey, we did.
I said, "Yeah, he seemed like he was, but you know that kid, you know, he had to learn the plays from the rest of us guys, but he probably was better than me." But you know, I that's one of the stories that I liked.
Well, we really appreciate that and really appreciate all the kind words that have been shared about Coach Schnellenberger. We want to take this time to give Coach Schnellenberger an opportunity to speak back to you guys. There's still plenty of more that's going to happen tonight during the show, so you'll get a chance to continue to share with him, but we want to hear from him right now and get a few words out of him. Coach?
Thank you very much. Am I on?
You're on, Coach.
All right. Well, it has been a wonderful evening for me personally. It's been a long time since I've seen it and listened to you. Most of the things that you talked about, I've forgotten already. So it's good playing for me to regress. But I want to thank all of you for giving me your undivided
you and go speak of you. Tell them to go speak of you.
Do what you asked you to do.
Tell it right here, the third group.
And when you did that, we won a lot of games. a lot of time has passed from that, and it's hard for me to remember all the stuff that happened. And I remember as I listened to you, I listened to you. I remember most of it. But anyway, thank you guys very much for coming again. First of all, thank you very much for taking taking the invitation that we get sent to you to play me on a team, and even each one of you had a major impact on the things we did. It was a great team. It was a great player, and history was. So, thank you very much for what you said and done. Pray for me as I leave the planet, and read in your book the things that you did, because you put a lot of stuff in a lot of books, a lot of newspapers, and a lot of people remember the great things you did. So with that, I'll say good night.
Thank you, Coach, so much for those kind words, man. The Bible says, give honor where honor is due. And I mean, I just salute you. I take my hat off to you for the things that you've done. And not only have you impacted these men on this call, this Zoom call right now, but you have impacted, you don't know how many people you have impacted with your visions, with your dream. I believe, like K-Lou mentioned, the University of Miami is on your shoulders. You are the cornerstone that got this thing started, and we just want to make sure we give you the proper respect and honor that you truly deserve. So thank you, Coach, and thank you to your beautiful wife, Beverly, for the sacrifices that you have made and are pouring to so many people. I thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, one of the things, man, I want to transition to, you kind of mentioned it. So for you guys that got that AI mentality, all right, y'all, this may be not sweet music to your ears, but one thing I want to talk about practice. Not the game, but practice. And practice at University of Miami is legendary, baby. Practices was harder than the game. So I want y'all to take time right now to talk about that practice. All right, Alonzo Highsmith, the champ, what you got for me, baby? Put yourself on mute, champ. Take you off the mute. Talk to me. Talk to me. Good Lord.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you working on your Uber drive, or what you doing right now?
No. First of all, man, I want to say one thing from the bottom of my heart, man, and this comes deep from my heart, man, because everything that I went to the University of Miami for was because of the Eddie Browns, the Dave Heffermans, the Jay Brophies, the Kozars, and all these guys. And everybody talks about the Miami teams, but to me, the Miami team is 1983. I was a young kid in high school and never heard of the University of Miami. I was from Canada. My story is unique. I came to Miami from Canada, didn't know anybody. Never been to a college football game in the United States till I went to see Miami versus Florida in the Orange Bowl, Jim Kelly's senior year, and the University of Miami pulled the game out with a Rocky Belt touchdown at the end of the game. I called home to my mother in Canada. She asked me how my day was, and I was emotional because I told my mom I saw a team come out of a tunnel with smoke coming out of it. And I told my mom, and I get emotional about this, I told my mom, this is where I'm going to school. I said, I'm going to be the best football player in America, and I'm going to do everything I can to go play for this school. And she said, what school is that? She said, I said, it's the University of Miami, Mom. They played Florida today, and there was 71,000 people in the Orange Bowl. And she said, well, you're going to have to work hard. I told Mom, I said, I'm going to do it. I want to play for the school. And as the senior year went on and I got recruited high, I could have went to any school in the nation. And, you play that little game, you're visiting other schools, but I was coming to Miami. There was never a doubt in my mind I wasn't going to University of Miami. And I'm going to tell you something. The people who taught me to be tough at that school were the Rodney Bellingers, the Gary Stevens. There wasn't a game I ever went into that I thought we couldn't win with Gary Stevens and Joe Brodsky and our coaches we had. And the coach that doesn't get talked about, Harold Allen, Joe Alvidati, Tom Alvidati, Mike Archer, Mark Tressman. And on top of that, you had Howard Schnellenberger. I felt as though I had the greatest college coaching staff in the history of college football. They taught me to be a man. Coach Schnellenberger is the only man who's ever made me cry in practice because I didn't think I could run anymore.
Practice? Not practice.
Hey, I didn't think I could run anymore. I didn't know we were doing 3-a-days. I didn't know you weren't allowed water on the practice field. I didn't know you had to do 18 straight plays and he'd say Riverside. When I left the University of Miami, and I loved Gary Stevens and Joe Brodsky and those guys so much, the last game we lost for the national championship, it didn't hurt for me as much as I hurt for those coaches because I wanted to do so well for those coaches in this program and this university and the Tony Fitzpatricks and all those people because when I came there at Miami, those guys taught me what swagger was because I'm going to tell you something. They were the cockiest dudes I ever met. I wanted to be like Albert Bentley because if you sent a linebacker on a blitz and Albert caught you, you were out cold. You weren't getting nowhere. That's what I wanted to be. Jay Brophy in practice, Kevin Fagan, and all these guys, they were the original gangsters to me. These guys laid it on the line. I remember the bus going to every big game we went to. I used to say to myself, these guys ain't scared of shit. These guys, Gary Stevens wasn't scared of shit. I'll never forget this. Gary Stevens said, we're getting ready to play Oklahoma. Gary Stevens looked around and said, what the hell are y'all scared about? These guys can't play with us. And that was the attitude of the whole program. It was the attitude of Coach Schnellenberger. I would have never went to running back if it wasn't for Howard Schnellenberger. You know why I went to running back for Howard Schnellenberger? Howard Schnellenberger told me, since Alonzo, I know you can be an All-American linebacker, but if you play running back for us, we'll compete for national championships. I was sold on that. It was a total unselfishness at Miami. Everyone played different positions. And I'm going to just say this. I know we've had a lot of receivers come out of the University of Miami. Downtown Eddie Brown's the greatest receiver ever played at the University of Miami. And you can line them all up. I'm going to take Eddie Brown 1.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Dave Heffermans. I want to thank Bernie Kosars, all those guys in 1983 when I met them. They taught me how to be a real football player. Now I might have talked too. We might have talked a little bit too much shit because of them. But I want to thank those guys, and I think it's been a long overdue to thank Al-Badati, the Mark Tressmans, and the Eddie Browns, and the Fred Robinsons, and Tony Fitzpatricks, and all those guys, the Glenn Dennisons, and Jay Brophy's, Rodney Bellinger, Eddie Williams, and Kenny Calhoun. Honestly, I want to thank you guys, man. You don't even know what you mean to me in my life. And though we're apart, we're not around each other all the time. There's not a day that I don't think about you guys. And thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Dave, pick up from that. As far as being an offensive lineman, man, y'all usually overwork and underappreciated. Tell me about your practice mindset as well.
Well, this will be an easy topic. Okay, and Zoe, I appreciate the kind words and love playing with you. And I got to thank you, Michael, for putting this together because in these very trying and divisive times we're in right now, I see so much love, and seeing you guys all here is the greatest thing ever. So thank you to you guys. But I can put it in perspective when you talk about Coach, because one of the things, that you heard a lot of as we talked about was work ethic. And that was the one thing he instilled in you that, you can't get outworked, and that's on you. Okay. You might not be as tall as you want or fast as you want, but work is what you got to do. And then belief. And you heard what everybody talked about, really starting to believe. But practice was legendary. And nowadays you can't even have 2 days. You can only be out on the field a certain amount of time.
Yep.
Well, in '83, we had 3 days. We had a practice before breakfast. We went and had breakfast, came back, and then had 2 practices in full pads.
Good Lord.
Wow.
And we were dying. Okay. I mean, it was just, didn't know what to do and everything else. I was a junior. Albert Bentley was a junior. Jay Brophy was a senior. Somehow we drew the short straw because the team said, you got to go talk to Coach. You got to do something. We're not going to live, we're not going to survive. And so the 3 of us went up to talk to Coach, and it was in the old Heck building. And, it's a senior, so we're pushing him and going down the hallway like you're getting called in the principal's office and shaking. And Coach calls us in. He's got the pipe and sits back, and we sit down and it's like, what can I do for you, gentlemen? And we're all kind of quiet. Bro starts. And then, of course, we're now feeling it because Bro's like, Coach, we just think we're working too hard. So Albert and I chime in, and we're all feeling good about it. And he leans back and says, gentlemen, I appreciate you coming in. All good comments. That's all bullshit. Now get back out on the field. And we hauled ass back into the locker room. And that was it. And the team's waiting for us, like, how'd it go? We're like, not good. Get dressed and get out on the field. But the thing is, he pushed us to get the best out of us. And my roommate and our starting center, Ian Sinclair, was the one that really summed it up. Because when we played these teams that came in, the heat affected us the same way it affected them. When Virginia came or Notre Dame came into town, they felt it the same. But the difference was this. They thought they were going to die. We knew we weren't. And that gave us the ability to just stand toe-to-toe with it because we knew we'd been through things. We'd been through scrimmages that ran 140, 150 plays. Okay, there's no football game got that many plays in there. So, yeah, what Coach did was brought the best out of us and then made us a team because when we got in that locker room for that Nebraska game, there was only about 90 people on the planet that thought we had a chance to be on the field with them. And it was all these guys and the guys who were in that locker room. And that was because of
Hey, Albert, that was great, man. Albert, why don't you follow up, continue the conversation about the practice, baby? We're talking about practice, not the game, but practice.
Yep. I mean, I'm the only one on here that actually didn't come to Miami for the football program. I came for the marine biology program and actually sat in the stands for a couple of games that we actually got beat in. I had a buddy that also, played high school football, and we'd talk, and he'd always talk about, he could help them and we should go walk on. And I'm like, man, this is D1. What are you talking about? I didn't even know what walk on was. And the second game, he actually dared me to walk on with him. And then he said, oh, I know why you won't want to walk on with me. You're scared I'm going to make the team and you're not going to make it. So that was kind of like the challenge that made me go ahead and decide to walk on with him. I went out for the team and, walked on the team and they gave me, I told them I was a running back. They gave me number 69 on the first day. So, they're thinking I'm going to be there for a day, maybe 2, and I'll be gone. And things worked out about that second week. And Coach Schnellenberger, he is a coach's coach, and he lets the coaches coach the players. But it was like it was actually the first thing he had ever said to me or spoke to me. And he was like, he saw me in that 69. He's like, Albert, like, I'm coming over to him, kind of shaking because I don't know why he's calling me over. He's like, go in there and change that number. So I go back in the locker room and say, hey, coach says y'all got to give me a different number. So I ended up playing. They didn't have any more running back numbers, so I had to end up playing with a quarterback number. So I played with number 16. But just to get to the coach, and I remember I tell people still today, the hardest I've ever been hit in, all the football I played, NFL, USFL, was at practice at University of Miami. We brought it. I mean, and that's why I really believe, like, when we went to play anybody, there was no fear. I'm more afraid at my regular practice than I am in the game. I got these guys that are, real killers on my team that ain't holding back at practice. We're going hard because that's just the level that coach made us play at. We would start over. He'd say, right. I remember that when we got back from the Florida game, y'all don't want to play on Saturday? Okay, let's play on Sunday. We're going to play Sunday morning. Let's go. Scrimmage, full contact. Can you imagine? We just, played in that Florida game the night before, flew back, and now it's 6 a.m. and we're going at it, So, it really, made us play at a level that was high enough to earn, the national championship that we won.
Hey, you know what? If they had those rules nowadays, the NFL, they'll still be striking right now. They wouldn't have agreement.
For sure.
Hey, Melvin, why don't you add on to what Bentley was talking about, Mel? Unmute yourself.
What's going on, fellas, man? Listen, everybody, I love y'all, man. It's just, man, this is it's touching. And Coach Schnellenberger, before I tell the story about me being Turner Gill and running the quarterback position and kick their ass all week, Coach Oliver, they had to call a team meeting on the field and get into the defense. But Jay Brophy was pissed off with me. But I'm upset, Coach Schnellenberger. You let that slappy named Alonzo Highsmith, you redshirted me before me. I still got a problem with you, Coach, but I still love you, though, all right? So the story was, I got dressed up. Coach Schnellenberger came and grabbed me. He said, listen, you played in the wishbone, come out of high school. He said, I need you to do me a favor. I said, yes, sir, Coach. Anything. He said, we need a good look. I said, huh? He said, yeah, I want you to play quarterback. You got to run Turner Gill's position. I need you to do everything that you've done in high school and just give us the best look. I'm like, all right. So me being a Joseph, I went and got dressed up. I got the jersey made, number 12. I had Gill on the back. I had the towel hanging off. I was Nebraska down. I put the N on the helmet and everything. All week, I'm killing the defense. Roddy Bellinger. I'm running through, Jay Brophy. I'm running through Calhoun, pissed off. Eddie Williams got so pissed off, he told me he's going to punch in my mouth. So I'm running the wishbone, the option is the read option. So it got to a point when Coach O called the team up. He said, listen, if you SOBs don't stop this kid right now, what do you think when the real person put that jersey on, it's going to be hell to pay? So now, he made him run. Y'all remember this. He stopped practice, made the defense run gas. And why did he do that? Lord have mercy. I couldn't get a snap off the ball. Fitzpatrick, all the boys, Cole High, all the boys, man, they started lashing on me to the point where I had to tap out. But that was the moment right there as far as the 83 championship. We give y'all all the props. Everybody want to do 30-30 saying, me and Alonzo, we want to start it. No, that's bullcrap. You guys showed us the Albert Bentleys, the Keith Griffins of the world, the Speedy Neals in that room with Joe Prosky. We learned how to be professionals to that point. When we won championship that night, I was redshirted. Me and Tarbert Baines on the sideline. We had stole so many snacks out of the room. Well, as far as a pregame meal, we had cookies. I had all kind of crap in my socks and Snickers. Everything. So we know we weren't going to get on the field. So, hell, we stood there. We was the biggest cheerleaders. We made Sports Illustrated on the bench with, y'all remember, the magnitude of that city. It was electric, what Coach Stevens said. We got into that night, we left that stadium. We just rode around the city. Every place we went to, McDonald's, they saw us with our Canes, those cheap-ass bold sweats that we had on that Orange Bowl gave us. We rode around our night. And we got everything free. We had McDonald's. We got every place we drive through. We hanging off Flaherty. Somebody Jeep. We stole one of the white players' Jeep, and we rode the Jeep around the city. And we didn't pay for nothing for an entire month.
And how I remember that, every place we went to, that's when we go to nightclubs. We got the Dolphin fans things. They suck at the time. They couldn't beat their way out of wet paper bag. So we were so happy to the point that that city, it changed Miami. It's changed the culture for the 83 team. We set the precedence from that point on. And Lonzo, you told a tale about you called your mom. You called me and told me that you wanted to go to Miami. We was talking that one night, and you said, man, look, what are we going to do, Mel? What you thinking about doing? I said, what are you thinking? You said, what you thinking? I said, what you thinking? We both sat on that phone, and we didn't know. Our parallels of mind thinking, you got to be careful as a young kid speaking to existence. You and I both said that night, as I remember, it's like 11 o'clock that night on the phone. We said, one of us started. I said, I'm thinking about Miami High. And you said, man, I'm thinking the same thing. He said, let's go. So we called Coach Axe. And I said, Coach Axe, we got Houseman, you got me. Now go get the rest of the team and let us get on the phone. We got on the phone and we recruited Jerome Brown, Brian Blaze, we called everybody. We started calling everybody. But the foundation was already there. We spoke into existence about we're going to win a championship that year, not knowing we freshmen. I mean, I got this break, you know, saying I'm redshirted, but I was happy because I didn't have the weight program that I had in high school, so I needed a redshirt. It was a blessing for me to get redshirted. But when we spoke into it and said we're going to win the championship, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful, Mel. And I mean, that 83 recruiting class was arguably one of the best class in Miami history. Tell me this, when we talk about the state of Miami, the 5-year plan from Burger King free game ticket combo, all right, to lifting up the national championship. Jay Brophy, why and Howard we trust, baby? What made you come to UM? Oh, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Jay. Jay, unmute yourself.
He's old, man.
Jay, help yourself. Unmute yourself, Jay. There you go.
I got you. Yeah, I'm slow. Again, I'm a paper, but I still take notes. Hell, I don't use no pads. I write it on notebooks. But yeah, that was the big thing is remember, buy a Whopper, get a ticket free. And hell, we still only had like 20,000 fans. I mean, hey, it was tough. But the thing was, as everybody keeps talking about, when you practice the way we practice at Miami, all right, you never feared anybody. I feared more guys on my team hit me than I did anybody else. And we knew when you came to practice, there was one tempo. It was called live. All right. So get it out of your mind, come to work, be ready to go. You know, and that's just the way it was. But the reason at the time, I used to curse these coaches that are leaving, man. How in the hell could they ever do this job? I mean, it must be miserable. Well, after coaching for 30-some years now, I realized the love for the game and doing that. And again, I built everything on what we went through, from buying Whoppers to get a ticket free to win a national title, and a coach telling me that within 5 years we'll win a national title, and we did with the guys we had. It works with every group of kids I coach, telling them and again believing. I think helping these guys said to push ourselves farther than we had ever been pushed before. You just find out there's always something left in the tank. And I will never let the kids know about tiring and all that stuff. Oh, I'm brutal on that anymore because there's always something left. And again, these things just lasted forever. And this is lifelong lessons. When you get to work as hard as we did in practice, do what we did and accomplish what we did, you know it's a formula that works. Sometimes you got to outwork your opponents. You got to be able to be tough, push through things that you never thought you could. And the big key is to listen to guys who know what's going on, our coaches and our players. And that's one thing. Calling signals with the team we had, good God. Fitzy's in there laughing. Robinson's hollering at the other sidelines. I mean, guys were having fun. I mean, our games were, I'd have to holler shut up just to get a call in because guys wanted to play. They were excited we were out in the field because we knew what we had went through. Man, we weren't worried about anybody out there in that field. And that kind of mentality, again, has to be what you try to bring forth in people. And I look at the young guys coming into you today, and that's what I keep thinking. Man, you got to remember what it was like and what we did and where we came from.
Right.
It was a mixed bag, man. We had a no frills facility too. Wasn't like we were sitting in air conditioning, drinking or sipping on lollipops. No,
Yes.
But we worked our tails off, but we ended up having fun doing it. And it ended up being a great thing for us. You get pushed farther than you ever thought you could go. And once you do that, then there's no stopping. And that's how I felt. It was so good for me. At the time, no, I wasn't enjoying it. But now I look and I'm going, man, that was the best thing that ever happened.
You're right, right. And that's good. This is before, like you said, before the 5 national championships. Hey, Kenny Calhoun, what made you chose to you? Why and how would we trust Kenny Calhoun?
Well, this is my story. I believe it was maybe an accident. I believe Coach Tom Olivadotti was at the Merritt Island Titusville astronaut game, looking at Joe Colbrand and maybe 1 or 2 other things. And I really played well at linebacker. And Coach, after the game, came, introduced himself to me and talked about the University of Miami, because Titusville is located in Central Florida, and that's Gator country, and I was thinking about that. But as the season went on and as the recruiting went on, Tom kept going up at different places at my basketball games, and unbeknownst to me, and just checking me out to see if I was worthy. Then I talked to my high school coach and said, "Hey, Coach, University a letter of intent to play there. What do you think?" He was a Gator alumni. Hey, take that. So I took his advice, and I signed at his house. Coach Schnellenberger, he really doesn't have to talk too much or too long. He said a few words, and it was convincing to my mom. She was at peace. So I took a visit and visited the guys, and the atmosphere there was just loose and carefree, and they really seemed to enjoy one another. So I bought into it, but I was glad that David talked about the weather, the heat, because down in South Florida, it rains and then it stops. It gets hot, it rains, and then it stops. It gets hot. And, that's one of the things I remember, that heat and that rain. So, the rain was a relief. And you had to, with Coach Schnellenberger, the rain was a relief, but that you weren't going to get off the field, no matter how hard it rained. It had to be lightning, like right across the street, and then they'll call practice. But if it's a mile or so away, we out there still getting it. But, Coach Archer, he really, really did a good job with us. The DBs, he was really tough on us. I mean, he didn't never let up, not one freaking day. He kept our focus. He kept riding at 183 pounds, talk bad about him. And, like Rodney spoke about Reggie, we kept him in the game. Reggie would do what he was told to do, and he did it very well. I think he was the best athlete on the team, and he played well as a freshman. He had a monster game against Notre Dame, blocked a couple field goals, which was big. We shut them down. And I could talk about probably every player, on the team, what they meant to the team, what they added to the team, what they gave the team, for each game, each practice. It was notable, memorable situations that occurred that stick with you. But like many said before, the diverse culture of the players and the love and the bond that we gained, it was, to me, the city got involved, and you could feel the energy as we continued to win games. We really did get stronger, Coach Archer. We did get stronger. We believed, Coach, after that Florida game,
if it wasn't for those 2 fumbles in that early 14, points they got, I believe, they were pretty good. Florida was 9-1-1, so they had a really good squad and some really great players, and we didn't do bad. We scored well as a team. Coach, I remember Coach Schnellenberger saying, as a team, we scored enough to win, but those turnovers in that Florida field, was a game changer. So we bought into that and went into practice. Riverside was for real. That means you go the other way and you go another 18 plays. And I really think the 3-a-days helped us. Like Dave mentioned, because of the conditioning I didn't get tired. We played well. The defense got off the field, and the offense, played well. They drove the ball, so the plays were, more than 3 or 4 plays an hour. So they put it together, and I know the defense remember this, Jay, Rodney. If the offense scored 20 points, that's all we needed. We know we were going to win.
Right.
Just give us 20 points, and we're going to do the rest.
Oh, Kenny, we got you covered on 20 points, my man.
Oh, yes.
No doubt.
That was a given.
Yeah, and you talk about that, man. You talk about the offense and 20 points. And, hey, Bernie, why from Ohio, baby, back to Miami? Why and how would we trust, man?
That's a great question. Coach Schnellenberger, and we were talking about practice and what he used to do and how our guys and how he taught us to be tough and get through it. Really to become men, to become tough, to become resilient, never to quit. And coming from Ohio, one of the things that I wasn't heavily recruited in the Midwest, so I had an opportunity to go to some nicer, smaller schools in the Midwest, but really the schools that were only throwing at this time was in Florida and then out west. And Coach Schnellenberger came to me and said, basically that you have an opportunity to lead this team, and it's going to be my onto a national championship. And he goes, when you get older, he goes, you don't want to look back and be an old man and wonder if you could have done your best and to have reached your pinnacle of success. And the University of Miami has always played the toughest, hardest schedule. So we were always playing Florida, Florida State, the Notre Dames, Penn States, and we're always challenging ourselves. So each year we were able to have that opportunity to compete for a national championship. And I remember having the nerve to come into his office, and we had almost like society today where we have some of the protesting and all this somewhat unrest going on out in society. Well, the University of Miami, and Miami also was, the Mario boat lift had happened in the late 70s. We were having, Coconut Grove was having race riots back then. And I look at all this beautiful love and respect that we developed as a family that we still carry to us to this day in 2020, that we started developing in 1983. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful scene of people back then, and seeing it just today. But Coach Schnellenberger told me that I almost transferred my freshman year because I had Vinny Testaverde, Jim Kelly was there, Mark Rick, Kyle Vanderwyn. I was fifth string.
Shoot, I would have transferred too. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Why did you stay, Vernon?
Well, I was going to transfer. I didn't want to be a career backup. Coach Schnellenberger, I had the nerve to come up to his
That's
office.
some heat right there.
And he said to me, he goes, I go, Coach, it doesn't look like I'm going to be a starter. And he goes, you're right, it doesn't look good for you. But he goes, you're the one position where physically, Vinny Testaverde was running a 4.7. He benched 325. I was running 5.5. I barely got a $185 up. Coach Preston, Coach Stevens. Yeah, look at all you guys laughing.
Hey, you notice how he did it too. It was crooked.
Right. Yeah. But the coaches believed in me so much, and they said mentally, you could go for it. But they said, anything in life that's worth getting, that's great, everybody else wants. And if you run from a challenge as an 18-year-old, and you run from something now, you're going to be a quitter and you're going to run your whole life from a challenge. And that ability to stand up, fight, go for it, do the best you can. Hopefully you're going to succeed if you do the best you can. But if you don't, you did the best you can, and you can look yourself in the mirror, you know you gave it everything you got. And that sense of confidence of being right and that trust and responsibility that he really gave all of us, I think really still resided with us on the football field those days. But I still think it resides and resonates within us today as men. And I can't thank the coaches, players, Coach Schnellenberger, all of you enough, because I think what we all stand for, I know what I stand for, really started and resonated with you guys and our family that we started at the U.
Yeah, and that's so powerful, man, because nowadays with these kids, as soon as they don't play, they want to go to the transfer portal, you know? So thank God, look how you endured, and Coach gave you that wisdom, and look at the benefits of it right now. Jack Fernandez, I know you had to endure your moment didn't come to the last game. Talk to us, Frank. Jack, excuse me. Why, and how would we trust?
Well, in high school, I had pretty good years. I was 2 years all county and 2 years third team all state. But come recruiting time, no one would talk to me. No one was calling me. I had friends getting calls from Liberty Baptist, and I would tell them, hey, tell the coach about me. Tell the coach about me. And they said, no, you're too good. I said, but there's no one talking to me. There's no one talking to me. And I didn't know why. And the coach, my head coach would go, hey, I got you. I said, well, you got me nothing. Have people talk to me. I didn't have any recruiting at all. One day, coach called me in. This is my high school coach. And he says, hey, this is Joe Broski. And Joe Broski puts a scholarship in my face, and he goes, look, 4-year scholarship to UM. One thing, I didn't know Miami had a college team. Miami Dolphins back then. I grew up and lived here, but never knew about the Hurricanes. Never saw them play. But I looked at it and I saw Jack Fernandez. I said, hey, could you mind putting my given name, Jacinto Fernandez, so my parents can enjoy it? And he kind of got upset, but and I told Buddy, I said, hey, I guess I'm not going to Miami. But the next day he came in, I signed the scholarship, and I went to Miami, and people talk about hard practices. To me, they were just normal practices, except for the 3-a-days and the 140 game scrimmage practices. Those were normal.
Good Lord. Ain't
But
nothing normal about that.
I found out about 10 years ago that my high school coach was a teammate of Coach Schnellenberger at Kentucky. And then it all made sense. It all made sense, you know. But talking about practices, I remember one time it was our senior year. We went out, and you don't know if you're practicing good or not. You're a player. You're just trying to get by. About 30 minutes into practice, Schnellenberger calls us all up. He says, go inside. So we all went inside, and we're sitting there, and we're all like, we're going to die, man. He's going to kill us. He comes in and he says, look, y'all just get dressed, go back at your business, make this the last bad practice you're ever going to have. Wow. So we all went. A few weeks later, same thing happened. Hour practice. We had to go back up to the meeting room, have our 5-minute meeting, go back down, and we did a 3-hour practice for not having good practices. So you learn quickly. You practice hard and you practice as best you can, because there's no slacking off. That's what made us what we are. We didn't have all God-given talent. We all were smaller. We might have been faster, and we had our attributes, but we didn't have some of the things that, we weren't all 6'3". I remember my freshman year, the linebacker coach, Coach Lance, wanted me to take on linemen with my hands and my helmet. I'm like, but I don't do that. I grew up with Nick Monicani. You put a shoulder, you get him off, you get going. You don't sit around wait for a blocker, you get away from him. So I told my freshman, I said, look, I just want to be a punter, because I was a backup punter. I said, I just want to be a punter. He goes, no, I need you to be a linebacker. I need you to be on special teams. I need you on the team. I'm like, but I'm never going to play because this guy wants me to take. He goes, don't worry about it. You'll be playing, and you'll get your chance. Just hang in there. And that's when Coach Alvadati came in. And Coach Alvadati didn't care how I got rid of the blocker. Didn't care. He just wanted me to get to the play. So from there on, I was like, okay, I can play here. And it's a hard work. Just got to work hard, and that's what we did.
Well, building the University of Miami started 4 years earlier, before the '83 season. But in the '83 season, the U was born. Guys, looking back to that '83 season, what games, moments, and stories do you have, excluding the big national championship game? Darren, we're gonna go to you.
I think, when we lost to Florida, and to listen to Coach Schnellenberger, more or less, made us believe. He taught us how to believe. And, even when I first, my parents said, "Hey, that's where you're going." I didn't know if I was going to go to, I went out on a recruiting trip with Danny Brown and walked home in the middle of it at 3:00 in the morning. I was not going to the University of Miami. But my parents said, "You're going to Miami because the Coach Schnellenberger said you're going to win the national championship." He taught us how to believe. And when we lost the Florida game, and the attitude that he had and the drive and determination that he taught us, you knew you were going to continue to win. And that game was more or less a lesson that we continue to learn throughout our lives with Coach Schnellenberger on how to be great at what we did. And, I look back, I don't know where I'd be today without the lessons I learned, the respect, the determination, the attitude, the discipline. Our practices were timed. They were tough. And Coach Schnellenberger always said, practice perfect makes game perfect. And we had great practices. And if we didn't, we started the drill over again. And, he made us into men. He made us into winners. And I think that first game of losing really made us a winner and really got us to win the national championship. So I think that really pole vaulted to us. And I you know what, before let me just say this. It's an honor for me to listen to all these stories and to be part of a team that was so great. And it wasn't because we were all great athletes. It's because we were all great people. And it's great seeing, Bernie and all these guys. And, it's a memory that I will always have for the rest of my life. But, I'm somewhat successful today because of the people and the coaches and my teammates. The Kenny Calhouns. I love that guy. We've got just great teammates. We got just great people. So thank you for being you. And it was been a special time for me in those 4 or 5 years that I was there. So thank you.
Could I add something, 3 quick things real quick?
Let's go. Yes, sir.
First, Bernie Kosar, he was with me at Cleveland Browns and the Miami Dolphins. And Bernie they used to do a test on the 40-yard dash. And Bernie had the fastest time for 10 yards. And when he finished the 40, they said, "How could you run this fast for 10 yards and not finish the 40 good?" He says, "I burned myself out."
I was winded.
Yeah. And the second thing I attribute to the coaches and the players, 7 of our starting 11 defensive players were never recruited by a major college. And they did what they did and came 3rd or 4th in the nation at that time. And that's a real, and talking about Howard, spring game, I will never forget this. We had spring game at that, forget where I was at, one of those, Tropical Park, was it?
Yeah.
Tropical Park. And we were playing some great defense that day, and I was very vanilla. And Howard got mad because offense wasn't doing well. And he called me over. He says, "I want you to play vanilla." I said, "Coach, I am vanilla." He says, "Okay." So we stopped him again. We got in the bus, went back to our facility, and started the scrimmage again. And finally, I held the guys up. I said, "Let them score. I'm getting tired." But they wouldn't. They wouldn't let them score. But the point was, if you didn't play well on both sides of the ball, you were going to get. He would let you know that. And it didn't matter if you're offense or defense. If you didn't play well, you were going to find out about it. And I'll never forget that day ever.
Yes, sir.
That's all I got. I'm done.
Coach Tressman, jump in there about the '83 season memories, particular games.
The one that came to mind, there's a lot of memories. And again, it's just a heartfelt privilege to be with you guys, every single one of you. I wish I had. I'm going to try to get a hold of everybody. There's so much I'd like to ask you and talk about your lives. But there was one clip in the video I remember, and Gary might remember this as well. It was against East Carolina. And it was a game. It was a really tight game. And you know, I said it earlier. I mean, Gary Stevens, and I know Howard would say the same thing, did an unbelievable job as the offensive coordinator of the University of Miami. The way he delegated responsibility, his unselfishness to me as a young coach, as the quarterback coach, and the coaches know to go in and be able to meet with Bernie and Vinny every single day until we met on Friday with Gary, right, Bernie? And we'd sit in that smoke-filled room and Gary would go over the game plan. But Gary really let you coach. And on the field, he was coaching the receivers, and I was a young quarterback coach. I didn't know anything about football, and I just feel I owe so much to him. But Gary will tell you that Howard listened to everything that was going on and didn't say much during the season. He was a game manager, and he let Tom call the defenses, and he let Gary call the plays. But against East Carolina, we were struggling. We got to a moment, we were probably, Bernie, maybe on the minus 35-yard line, and we needed a play. We needed something. And I started signaling in a play, and Howard says, hold up. He says, I want you to call, Brown right, I think it was 51 double go. And it was right by our bench. And I can remember when you threw the ball, Howard was saying out loud, we got to have one time. We need one play. And that was the play you saw in the clip. It was, one of Eddie Brown's. I got to say that there's never been another Eddie Brown. I've never seen anything like the Eddie Brown that we all know. I don't know if I'm still on, guys. Just somebody tell me.
No, you're on, Coach. You're on.
You're on.
But that was a memory because I think that was, you talk about defining moments into a season to be able to get to, a game like Nebraska. I think that was one of the game-defining clutch plays. And as I said, Gary probably called 99.9% of the plays during that season, but that was one time Howard just jumped in, had a feeling, and really, helped the direction of our team. And to this moment where we could sit around and talk about this great team of tremendous men and tremendous people. And again, guys, I don't want to take too much time. It's just I hadn't had a chance to be at any of the reunions and to be a part of this, and just the love and the passion of each and every man who spoke tonight is something that's so heartfelt, and I'll remember for a lifetime.
Thanks, Coach Trestman, and this is why we definitely wanted to get you guys together. Coach Archer, jump in there.
I'm going to say three things. Number one, we talked about the practices, and I think that one of the things that I took out of it as a young coach, because when I was hired Howard gave me my first full-time job as a secondary coach, and had the opportunity to work with Tom and share an office with Tom for those years. The toughness of the practices were extremely competitive, but when you went against our offense and Gary and Mark and Howard, coaching the secondary, they talk about the swagger, and Rodney talked about it, between Eddie and Rodney and Kenny and Reggie, it was very hard to get a word in edgewise because there was a lot of smack talking going on. And Eddie Brown was a DB before that. Eddie Brown could have been an all NFL corner. He was that good as a defensive back. And I remember our staff discussion about we needed a receiver, and Howard wanted to take him. I remember Tom and I said, well, who are we going to put at corner? And they said, well, we're going to put Reggie Sutton. And Reggie was a quarterback at Miami Killian. It had been a great, he was obviously a very talented receiver. And he said, we're going to take Eddie. He's older, and we're going to give you Reggie. And I, Tom and I kind of looked at each other, and I remember Howard saying to me, he goes, it's your job to get them ready to play. And so, I looked at it as a challenge. And our practices were competitive. And when we did one-on-one, and I listened, we talked about how hard Eddie was to Rodney Bellinger was a pretty good press corner, and so was Reggie Sutton. And to watch those battles every day, we didn't do 7-on-7 for 25 minutes like you do it now. Our 7-on-7s might have been an hour, and you had two going at one time. We had inside drill going on one end of the field.
Right.
And we had two of them going on. We had an inside drill, and two 7-on-7s. So you got 90 reps of 7-on-7. And so, you know, the competitiveness and the way that our guys were coached by the offensive coaches. And I used to constantly tell Rodney, stay on the outside shoulder, because as soon as you come inside, they're being taught to run back, you know. So that's something that has always, the attention to detail has always stuck in my mind as I continue to coach.
Hey,
When
Mike,
I came back,
Mike,
when
could
I
I
came, go ahead, Mark.
I feel comfortable interrupting. There's one thing I wanted to say before the hour was out, and I apologize for jumping in, but 3 people that we haven't said enough about tonight that I just wanted to say something about, and that is Hubbard Alexander, who was such an integral part of our chemistry and our passion, and Chris Vagotis, who coached that offensive line like a madman. And I know you could acknowledge that as well. I mean, and the personalities that they had that contributed to our winning ways. And there's never been another Joe Brodsky. Let's be honest. I mean, the one thing that players have to understand, and I know Mike and Tom and Gary, we never stopped laughing. And the thing about it is, Coach Schnellenberger never stopped us from laughing. We had more fun and more kidding and busting each other with the Brodskys and the Alexanders and the Vagotis. I know Mike and Tom and Howard knew what was going on and never stopped it. And each and every one of those guys, the 3 of them, rest in peace, were major contributors to all of us being here tonight. And I just was compelled to bring that up. And that doesn't mean the chiller wasn't important, you know, but, you know, working on the offensive side of the ball, knowing those guys, I just, it's in my heart just to, make them a part of the discussion.
Well, let me just finish up. I want to say this, 2 things. The 2013, when we came back for that reunion that I was fortunate enough to come back to and to see everybody, was very special. And it's obviously very special to see everybody today. And I'm going to leave it on this. And this was the Orange Bowl. I think Mark had already alluded to it a little bit. I'll never forget, at the end of the game, we're in that little press box at the Orange Bowl. And I was in the box with Harold Allen, Chilla. Gary and Brodsky were up there. And Carmen Grosso, we want to mention Carmen also. And Art Kehoe. They were the 2 GAs, and they were in the back. And that press box isn't very big. And at the end of the game, I swear, when they opened the door, the smoke that came out of there, because Gary never stopped smoking, Brodsky never stopped smoking, Carmen was smoking, Harold Allen was smoking. The only 2 that weren't smoking were Art and I. And if you remember, Art passed out in the locker room, spent the night in the hospital. I tell Kehoe, I said, that's from smoke inhalation, because we went through 2 packs of cigarettes in that little box. And when I went back into that box many years later, when I was a defensive coordinator at NC State, went into that same box, because we were the visitors that night. We wore white jerseys. Yet when I sat down, I looked around and I said, well, the air is a little cleaner right now than but that was one of the that was one of the most special nights in my life. But I always remember Joe Brodsky and Gary and Harold Chilla Allen, myself and Carmen and Art in that box. And when the game was over, like Gary said, Gary and Joe stayed up there. You know, they wanted to enjoy the moment. And I remember walking off, and we came down the elevator, and Art didn't feel very good, obviously, with all the smoking. Thank you, guys.
Can't hear you, Mike.
I'm done.
Mike Burrow, can't hear you.
Okay, Coach. I'm sorry. I say great job, Coach Archer. Hey, I know K. Lou, when we talked about the 83 season, he purposely held the national championship game in his back pocket. But Bernie Kosar, I want you to talk about heading into that game. I mean, it was like David versus Goliath. Don't believe the hype. You know, Nebraska high-powered team, but we came in with the mindset of, yes, we can. Talk to me about your preparation.
That's a beautiful question and a great lead into we're 18 years old. We're 17-point underdogs. Coach Schnellenberger and Coach Stevens, Coach Trestman, one of the things in the mantras that staff and I think that team had was that we wanted to maximize today. Do the best you can today. Don't worry about tomorrow, because if you do the best you can today, tomorrow takes care of itself. And we're going into that game, and they showed us coaches showed us such trust, such genuine love that they gave me the flexibility to go into that game. And typically in big games with a freshman quarterback where you're a big underdog, your coaches tell you as the quarterback, hey, be patient. Don't make a mistake early. Hand the ball off. Let your defense, which is a great defense, play good defense and get your feel for the game. And that's typically what most coaches were telling you back then, even to this day. Yet that day, coaches came up to me and said, hey, they've never seen an offense like ours. They've never seen a team that could throw like we are. So we're not only going to throw, but we're going to throw aggressively and go down the field. So the ability to be aggressive, the ability to believe in me, to believe in ourselves, that really was not only awesome for that game, but really a life lesson that's really stayed with me throughout my life that I like to try to be able to teach to younger people, that when you have confidence, when you have trust, that staff, that Coach Schnellenberger and that staff taught us, that you could really get above yourself. You could get way beyond it. And even the life's lessons that he did from a life standpoint is unquestionable. But from a football standpoint, as I see Alonzo Highsmith, on the screen right now, and we saw Albert Bentley, the fullback position is so imperative and important. And in that season, our fullbacks and our backs were amazing. The fullback position has been left out in the NFL over the last 5 or 10 years. And you notice staffs like ours and the offense that we ran in 1983 were actually better than most systems in the pros. And the way they groomed and taught us to this day, the system still stands up in the NFL.
Wow. So that's a great point, Bernie. I appreciate it. At fullback, I used to mess with Alonzo all the time. We used to do pass rush in the middle of his, in the front of his driveway all the time. So, hey, but one thing when you talk about preparation, Coach Tom Avidati facing that high-powered offense of Nebraska, all right, average over 400 yards rushing, not total offense, but rushing per game, 52 yards points they scored. Hey, talk to me about how you got the defense ready, man, to face that powerful offense.
Well, it wasn't hard because they were ready to play all the time. And the interesting thing, I went up to Coach Schnellenberger, and most coaches are not realistic. I said, what do you think, Coach? What do we need? He said, can you hold them to 15 points a half? I said, if they got more than that, I'm going to shoot myself.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that's what he said. And I said, okay, I'll do that. 15 points a half. I didn't think anybody could score 30 points on us.
Right.
But as it turned out, it worked out well. And it wasn't hard for me, guys ready. I mean, Tony Fitzpatrick, our nose guard, he shouldn't be a nose guard. He's too small. He's 5 foot. What are you now? 5'10"? 3? Okay.
Easy there, Coach.
The first, he doesn't remember this probably, but the first play of the game when we were on defense, Tony looked over to me, and he's going against a kid named Dean Steinkooler, an offensive center. I believe that was who it was.
Yep.
Big guy, 6'5". He looked over to me and he put his hands out like this and said, what the hell? What am I going to do? He played a great game. Another point on Albert Bentley, too, that you should know. Albert Bentley was one of the reasons we got so good on defense because he used to do a
Absolutely.
for us. And I went into Coach Schnellenberger, and I told him that Albert Bentley can run the ball. He used to be a running back. You remember that, Albert?
Oh, yeah.
Running back, and he used to kill us. And I thought he was great. And then finally,
one of the best all-around backs ever. His ability to pass block.
Oh, yeah. And Kenny Calhoun, I don't know if he remembers the last call of the game, and they still ask me if you tipped the ball on the 2-point play, Kenny. 55 double dog. Jack Fernandez remembers it, I'm sure. And you were supposed to stay right in place, and you did. But they keep asking me, did you tip that ball? And I say yes. So don't make me a liar, will you?
Kenny, go ahead and talk about that 2-point play, man. Heading into it, Talk more about that play. That's
All
one
right,
of the
I'll tell you,
historical
Coach
plays.
Schnellenberger asked me, he said, do you know what you're going to call? I said, yes, I do, because they only ran one play. And 9 2-point plays that they ran during the season, they only ran one play. And it was a double pick and a guy in the flat and they sprint off the corner. And we called it and it worked out pretty well. And after the game, they asked Coach Schnellenberger, and he said he gave me the okay to do it. So that was good. He gave me the okay to do it. And but it was a great experience for me. And I'll tell you what, for these players and these coaches, I can't say enough good things about them because I know, Mike Archer and Hal Allen and all these other guys, when I came in there, I wasn't the coordinator initially, and Rick Lance left, and I became the coordinator. And these guys could have whined and pouted and everything else, but they didn't. Howard made me the coordinator, and it worked out okay for us. But guys like Kenny Calhoun, and by the way, Mike, their numbers in the secondary, 1, 2, 3, 4. You remember that, Kenny? And Eddie Williams and Bellinger and Sutton? 1, 2, 3, 4 was their number, and people thought that had a meaning. It had no. It just fell into place that way. But getting ready for that game, I don't think I was so prepared for that. I felt so confident in our guys, and Jack Fernandez I knew was going to have a great game because they did all the things that Jack Fernandez was good at. You pull a guard, Jack is on his hip. You pull anybody, and he was great at that. And I believe you got player of the game, didn't you, Jack?
Yeah, you did. MVP. Yep. Hey, Jack, why don't you jump in and talk about that?
Most valuable assignment.
This offense was made for him.
Well, the thing about it was that was great was I always laugh with Coach Alvadotti. He didn't get the 3 most talented linebackers with me, Kenny Sisk, and Jack. I mean, we weren't those guys that were opposing figures. But what was great about it was it didn't matter if Kenny, I, or Jack were in there. It was kind of a threesome at linebacker. We just felt that way. It didn't matter which one was playing. We were always well prepared. We knew what we were doing. And when Jack came in, again, Jack was making huge plays. He was all over the field. And it wasn't anything I didn't expect because he was always ready for the moment. And it didn't matter who played at the position because Coach O did always have it so well prepared. That's what I always like too is we had scouting reports and we had things going. We had people's number. I mean, we knew what was going on. And again, our guys up front kept us clean a lot of the time, and we were able to get after people.
Hey, bro, you get your defensive guys. You were able to get after people, and I don't want to take away from that great call on the 2-point play. And Kenny Calhoun did tip that ball, but let the record show that there was still 48 seconds.
Okay,
thank you.
We had time.
Sure went down and scored, so. Don't worry about it. We still would have been having this beautiful reunion call on Facebook.
Well, I'll be very honest with you, though, Bern. I was ticked right after we stopped them because everybody was celebrating, and that's what I kept thinking. 48 seconds, onside kick. I was still worried until I believe it was Albert covered the onside kick, and then I celebrated. But I was like, oh God, man, they still have time to do something for us.
Bernie said to me, I can remember this distinctly. Bernie said to me, why were you worried? There was 48 seconds left. They weren't going to win.
Hey,
Jay, didn't you have
you guys
broken
really
thumbs?
spoiled me because early in my career, that awesome thing happened where the defense pulled something out at the end of the game. I kind of would have liked that to happen later in my pro career also.
Yeah.
No doubt. Hey, Calhoun, I want you to talk about that historical play you made where you did touch the ball. Can you elaborate on that play? You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a miraculous season. So we had no bye week. So we played 11 straight games, no bye week. So at the end of the season, we had a long layoff, so we had players getting better, getting healed. Fitzpatrick had his, shoulder. He was pretty much playing with one shoulder. And but the coaches got us prepared. I mean, they were the best coaches in college football, hands down, no doubt about it. Like Brophy said, we were prepared. We knew what plays they would run and the tendencies that they had. Turner Gill was going to, they were going to throw to Turner Gill 75% of the time, you know, and he caught most of them. But, you know, they put that 55 dog trio.
Irving Fryer. Yeah.
They coaches put in 55 double dog trio. It was in the playbook, but we never used it. And the trio was the secondary coverage where Eddie and myself would combinate, you know, the receivers 2 and 3. So, you know, they've seen them run that play. I don't know why, but they called that play and knew it would may happen. So we ran it numerous times in practice, getting ready for that game. So it's kind of like when you're a good team, you call the play, you don't think about it. It's like a reaction. So that's pretty much what it was. And before the snap, you know, I prayed. I said, Lord, help me. We didn't know what play they were going to actually call, but the coaching staff always called the play to put us in a position to make plays. So, you know, I give credit to the coaching staff for calling that play because it put us, the defense, in the position to make plays. And, you know, Brian, what's his name? Receiver Santana Moss, big time players make big time plays in big time games.
Yes.
So it was many plays made in that game during the season to get us to that point. Glenn Dennison had a monster game, 2 touchdowns. Stanley Shakespeare catching the ball.
God bless
rest
Stanley
his soul.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, catching
God bless
balls,
Shake.
making big plays, throwing that slant in there, burning you, hitting them right on the money. I mean, it was a great, you know, you just want to contribute. You want to do your part. And that's what I think we should be known as. Every player did their part. And the coaches put us in a position to make the play. So that was like hands down everything that team was about. Making the plays, putting us in position. And we went out and did that. We believed we could do it. And by the coaches putting us in those positions, and us making plays, it became like a norm for us. So we felt really good about it. We didn't care the opponent. It didn't matter. We felt what Coach Schnellenberger felt. We were ready. And He said, hey, don't worry about the press. Let me handle the press. We wanted to slide in under the radar, which we did. And we were 17-point underdogs, Cinderella team, which we were fine with because that led them to believe that they could win the game. As y'all know, a number of teams lost ahead of us, and they just set the table for us to do what we needed to do to win the game. But, you know, the coaches put us in the position to win many times.
Right.
Almost made sure Bernie stayed nice and clean.
That's it, Mike.
Nice and clean, Hal. Thank you, brother.
There you go.
Hey, I wanted to just add something to what Kenny was talking about, but I wanted to give Tom Oliver Dottie a shout out. I had mentioned his name because that play that Kenny was talking about, the one thing I can remember in practice, that play was simulated over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
So we knew what they were going to run. We knew our responsibilities. So it wasn't difficult. It wasn't a thing of nerves. It was just a thing physically just doing your job. Mentally, we were totally prepared.
Well, I think what was good too, Rod, is we knew right away when they scored.
And that's the thing. You're right about that, Jay, because we felt like we could win just about every play. But the one thing that I had so much pride about is our perimeter run defense, the tackling that the safeties and the corners contributed along with the linebackers. You know,
absolutely.
They could not outrun us. We
Rodney,
had confidence they weren't going to outrun us outside.
Right.
And thank God, and that's a big tribute to Mike Archer. He worked our tails off in tackling drills on perimeter tackling, and we were always confident. I was confident that I can tackle. And you remember we were tackling a Heisman Trophy winner.
Oh, hey, man, I
We wasn't
didn't
just
worry
tackling
about
an
our corners
ordinary
being
back.
cover guys. I knew
This
we could
guy
act.
was sensational.
Right.
So, but I never once thought about the guy as a Heisman Trophy winner. I just wanted to get a piece of it.
Right. And you know what? Hey, Rodney.
That's how we were programmed. We
Right.
were programmed to get out there. We weren't thinking about accolades. We were thinking about, everything we learned during the week of practice and we prepared for. We were going to make sure we do our best, each and every individual. And I can say that senior class, Jay Brophy, Jack Fernandez, Fred Robinson, Ed Williams, I have to give credit to those guys because you never hear that the senior class got credit. Man, you guys were stand-up guys. The leadership that came from those guys, was outstanding. And I had total confidence in each and every one of them. Even on offense with Albert Bentley, great story that guy had. You put all that together and it adds up to a national championship.
Hey, Albert,
Well, I think it's funny real quick
Yeah.
that like you talk about our defense, and again, I remember Coach saying this. You talk about undersized compared to Nebraska. We were very undersized. We had Dallas Cameron coming back off surgery, Tony after surgery. I had the pins pulled out of my thumb. Colbrand went out, Sisk went out, and I tell you, we were up front. Again, Tony did an awesome job of stuffing that damn center and guard that made it easy for me. And again, with any guy that stepped in there, like Rodney said, I'm tackling outside. We weren't worried about guys not being able to tackle and make plays. Hell, it was all who was going to get there and get a shot at. And I love that about our defense because we didn't have the great size or athleticism, but we were dynamite playing together.
Pursuit too.
Hey, Albert, why don't you jump in there, man, for us? Because one thing that get kind of drowned out a little bit is the fact that you scored, if I'm not mistaken, the go-ahead touchdown. Talk about your game, your performance that game.
I mean, it was, it was an awesome game. I mean, the coach had us ready. I'd say, Coach Schnellenberger, he was the mental coach. We learned how to play football from our position coaches. We learned, what to expect from the other team from our position coaches. But the mental side, Coach Schnellenberger, I mean, I still to this day, I tell people, when we ran out the tunnel for that game, I can't remember my feet being on the ground. We were just so fired up and ready to go to play in that game. And we were unselfish. I mean, we were unselfish, when it came to with our teammates and everything, but it was also like so competitive. You had said earlier, what was the pivotal game that season for each player. I remember, the second game of the season, we went out to Houston and, Keith Griffin, Archie Griffin's younger brother, was actually the starting, back tailback for that game. But Keith got sick, and I started in that game, and and I never really relinquished being a starter the rest of that season. So it's and that was kind of like the Miami way. It's like you were so when I saw Melvin and Highsmith and these guys coming in as freshmen. And all of a sudden, Highsmith is, sharing time. I'm like, okay, I got to turn this up even more, and that was kind of like, I believe what really made us so good was it's like nobody could just feel comfortable in their position. You had to be ready to just, to play and turn it up another notch to keep your job. I remember, talking about Coach Brodsky and all that he done. I mean, Coach Brodsky taught me how to pass block. And I think that's why I played professional football as long as I did, because I could always protect our quarterbacks from getting, hit. I used to, he had me where I could, read defenses like a quarterback, because so I'd know where the blitz is coming from, so I could be in position to, to block that blitzer. And, in that game, they were doing all kinds of things, changing their jersey numbers and everything else, thinking they were going to confuse me. From not knowing, who's going to come in and blitz. So, we picked up the blitzes throughout that game, protected Bernie, and we all know how he showed up in that game. with all the yards and the touchdowns and everything he did. The one actually, the one I almost had 2 touchdowns in that game. The one kick on Bernie. We're earlier in the game. We were down at the goal line and about to run the play, and it was called to me. I'm going to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I'm going to be the one jump over the top. And Bernie looks around and he calls timeout. They go to the sideline, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, Albert's going to be the decoy. Alonzo Highsmith is jumping over the top, and kind of took that one from me. But that's all right. I got one later on in the game. It's all good. It all worked out.
Oh, that's awesome. And one thing you kept saying, man, about being prepared, all you guys saying as far as preparations, it's hard sometimes to prepare when you're not starting. Jack Fernandez, tell me how you was able to stay focused and take advantage of that opportunity, Jack. Is Jack off? Did he get disconnected? Okay. All right.
Yep, I don't see him.
I don't see him. Okay. Well, just the fact that he talked about, man, because at Miami is next man up. We don't rebuild, we reload. And we reload. He took advantage of that opportunity. One thing I want to talk about, too, is that, now tell me this story, guys. I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, so much hype heading into the 86 championship game about the Army fatigue. I heard that you guys actually had started before then and started doing your game. So if I'm not mistaken, somebody wore Army fatigue to the game. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Matter of fact, it started a couple games before the Orange Bowl. And Coach Ganong would get a van and go early to the stadium 4, 5, 6 hours before the game even started. A couple guys started doing it, then a bunch of guys started doing it. Go get stretched, just a relaxed time at the stadium, go out by yourself, walk around the stadium a little bit. But for that game, Darren McMurray and myself, we actually went to the stadium fatigued because we said we're there for a war. And I didn't know if I was going to play in that game because I tore my bicep off my shoulder 6 weeks before that against West Virginia with 2 minutes left in the game. And then Coach Aldavati and Coach Schnellenberger put me in for a 16-play scrimmage the week of the Orange Bowl and ran every play at me and see if my shoulder would hold up. And I went 92 plays in that game. Wow. I've heard all night some great stuff and everything like that, but I don't think people understand. We had probably one of the best defenses in the country, if not the best defense.
Absolutely.
And Coach Aldavati, Coach Allen, Coach Archer, all our defensive coaches, we had 4 games where the team only had 7 points. We had one game where the team, West Virginia, had 3 points, came in highly ranked. They were going to do this and do that, and we shut them down.
Notre Dame had no points.
Total shutouts. We had 2 games, total shutouts. So add all those games up, about 7 games with, if you're feeding the offense the ball, that's a great defense, right? That makes the team better. And like a bunch of people said on here, Coach Aldavati, Coach Schnellenberger, our defensive staff, they had us believing it didn't matter if it was the Russians or a junior high team was going to show up. We were ready and we're prepared and we're going to get after them. And we weren't scared. Matter of fact, we were messing with them on the field, Nebraska, joking with them and stuff like that. I asked Turner Gill, does he go in the showers with Steinkler because he had all kinds of stuff all over his body. They were rolling, laughing. We were messing with them. We didn't care because we knew we were a dang good football team, and we were prepared, and we had the swag. And we were.
You guys did that every game.
What's that?
You guys did that every game. Again, trying to call things because we were talking, but we were having fun.
And that's what you do, because what we went through during the week, you had to have fun during the game, and they were going to pay with whoever showed up was going to pay what we went through. And I didn't care because, I'll tell you, our coaches challenged us. And that's why life is hard. You got all kinds of challenges. My life hadn't been easy, but it's been a lot easier because of what I went through at Miami. It made me a better man. It made me a stronger man. We were all better as people for what we went through because we believed in our coaches. We knew they had our back. And we knew outside that locker room, no one could affect us if we stayed together as a team.
That's awesome to say that. Listen, fellas, hey man, outstanding job. As we close down our show, you know, one thing, the 1983 team was like a melting pot. I think somebody said that earlier. And obviously, even the O-line, it was known as United Nation. But as we want, some final thoughts as we dial back our emotions and move our country forward. You know, obviously, we're not immune to what's going on in the country right now with the riots, the protests, the racial discrimination. How can we move forward to change the mindset of blatantly this historical racial biases? You know, I got a video that I want to show you guys, because far as athletes, we always have taken a stance and use our voice and use our influence to try to make a difference in the world, a positive difference. So I want to go ahead and play this one video and get you guys comments as we close down the show.
It's been 10 days since George Floyd was brutally murdered.
How many times do we need to ask you to listen to your players?
What will it take for one of us to be murdered by police brutality?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd? If I was George Floyd?
I am George Floyd.
I am Breonna Taylor.
I am Ahmaud Arbery. I am Eric Garner.
I am McCormick Dunn.
I am Tamir Rice.
I am Trayvon Martin. I am Walter Scott. I am Michael Brown Jr. I am Samuel Du Bois. I am Frank Smart. I'm Philip White. I am Jordan Baker.
We will not be silenced.
We assert our right
to peacefully protest.
It shouldn't take this long to admit.
So, on behalf of the National Football League,
this is what we, the players, would like to hear you state.
We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
We, the National Football League,
admit wrong and silencing our players from peacefully protesting.
We, the National Football League,
believe Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Coach Treshman, can you start it off for us as far as how we can use our influence to help further change, foster change in America? You got to unmute yourself, Coach. Go ahead, Coach. There you go.
I'm good now. Well, thank you for reaching out here. I think one of the advantages we have in this room is we've seen it all over the last 35 years. And so, you know, we have a tremendous perspective on it. And, you know, one of the things that I've thought about over the last month and a half or 2 months is as football coaches, you know, we really never saw color. But that's not the answer here. That's just a cop-out. You know, that's not enough anymore. Because football coaches, in my opinion, really don't. But that's not the issue we're talking about. But I think what we've seen over the last 2 weeks is we're at a tipping point where all of us can make a difference. And this is a Black issue, but this is a country's issue now. And I think that we see something we've never seen before in our lifetime, because we've all seen a lot of these things that we've seen, you know, the George Floyds our whole life. You know, and some of us grew up as young Black men and others grew up as white guys in suburban cities. This has hurt me because Minneapolis is my home. And I've been broken by it because it was an hour away from my dad's bar, 6 blocks away from my dad's bar, a mile away, literally. And I know everything about that area. So, you know, we've all got to take a more active role and recognize it's just not enough anymore that you and I treat each other as equals and we don't see each other, you know, as black and white, because we really don't. But that's not the issue. The issue is there's racial inequality. The issue is that police treat Black men and women and children differently than they treat white men and women. And it goes to who we elect and who we vote for at multiple levels. And then we have to, all of us, you know, take a step forward and say it's not enough to sit by the wayside, particularly as a white person, and say that as long as I treat everybody equal, it's all good. It's not. And it'll never be what we want. And until everybody is treated the same, by the police and by the system economically, our prison system. I mean, I could go on and on, but I don't want to be the guy. You know, I talked to my daughters about this week. It's not enough to say, you know, Dad, we grew up in a house that we had, you know, guys from all different backgrounds come into our house. That's not enough anymore, because that's not the problem. The problem is the police don't treat us all equally, and that's got to be addressed. And we got to find a way. I'm looking for help to find the ways that I can, because I don't know what I can do as a 64-year-old white guy, you know, but I'm inspired by our youth. And I think we all should be. That what we're seeing in the cities now is it's not inclusive anymore. It's everybody, and it's our young people who are getting it started. And we got to find a way, as, you know, upper middle-aged men, which we all are, to try to find a way to help fix this before we leave this earth, you know. And that would be my commitment, is to try to find something to do in some place with someone to help necessitate whatever change I can. And I think that's what we all got to think about. We can't sit on the sidelines and think it's going to go away, because if we do, we're going to leave our children and our grandchildren with what exists now, and that's just not good enough. It's not good enough. We're all one in this, and we know, as football is a microcosm of humanity, and we all know what it can be. That's what drew us to this game.
Yes.
You know, what drew us to this game is what we're doing right now: the locker room, the friendships, the love. You know, none of that is enough anymore. And we got to find a way, each and every one of us, in our own little space in our life, to make a difference. And that's the challenge we all have.
Well said, Coach. Outstanding. Hey, Calhoun, can you talk from your point of view as well? I know, being a former police officer, maybe you can, any words of encouragement or anything that we can say from that angle as well? You got to unmute yourself, Kenny, Calhoun. Go ahead. You're ready.
You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So inside looking out, you know, working for the sheriff's office, you know, I've seen bad cops, you know, I've seen good cops. And, you know, our self-defense, we're trained to, when you get involved and you get too involved, you know, they teach you to tap your brother out, tap your fellow officer out, because it's easy to get, you know, too emotional, too involved in a situation. But you have others around where you're trained to tap them out. You pull them back, you know, you save them from the things we've seen over the years. This is taught. So when you decide to do something different, you know, that comes from a different place. And I like to say, and I tell people, that's learned behavior. You know, that's something you got from someone. So it's not something normal. You wouldn't normally think to do these things to people. How can you, you know, just put your knee on someone's neck, man? That's not self-defense. That's not what you're taught in the academy. So when you see these things, it's coming from a different place. It's not something that the police department or the sheriff's office, they teach you. So you have these people that are some type of way, whatever, you know, you want to call them, and they do these things. That's coming from a different place. So, you know, that happens. Everybody sees it. And now it's time to do something about it. You know, it's not just to see it and not do something about it, because everybody on this platform has seen it in some kind of way, television, in person, whatever. But we've seen these young people out protesting. And, you know, that's something, you know, I haven't seen in my lifetime. You know, the number of people, black, white, you know, it just doesn't matter. You know, we're fighting for the same thing. We're fighting for America. We don't want to lose America. So we're so close. So, I mean, we lost so much ground in the last 2 weeks, you know, is ridiculous. I mean, it put us so far behind. We lost so much trust that we had in people because of the issues we've had over the years. So, you know, it's up to us, you know, to man up, cowboy up, and do something for our grandchildren, generations to come. Let's be that generation where, you know, it's equal to, you know, the civil rights movement. Let's do that. Let's be known in the history books that's taught in school that we made a difference, we made a change for a better American. And that's, you know, my take on it. You know, me and my wife talk about it, and she feels passionate about these things. And we have these discussions. We talk to my daughter about it. So these are discussions and the communication you need to have to your friends, family, or whoever. And I think that communication, if you're open to the dialogue with the diverse population, different people, then you'll get to learn different things. What's good about our team, it was so diverse. We didn't all do things the same way. We learned from one another. We found out how to do different things by communicating and being with each other. So you just don't get that, and people choose not to do that. They feel they're better for one reason or another than another group of people. And that's simply not the case. We're all a human being, and we should all be treated that way and be treated equally as far as economics goes, school goes, jobs, you know, across the board. And once that begins to happen, you know, and hopefully we'll see some of the policies, the systems go in place where we feel that it may be occurring. But right now, you know, we have to see what happens with what we got going on. And then, you know, maybe I can say I'm in a better place because of what has happened, what has transpired. I do truly believe that if it wasn't for the protests and in all the cities, 50 cities, that we wouldn't have gotten to a place where the officers were charged. And I think that's correct. I believe that's the correct move. You know, the protests brought that on. It would not have occurred had we not protested as a country, as countries outside the United States felt our pain. They feel our pain. They go through the same thing. So, you know, law enforcement, you know, we feel the same way. And it was such a nice feeling to see some of these law enforcement agencies join in with the protests because they feel they're human. You know, they won't do those things. So, you know, I join in with you guys for making a change and doing what we can. And if you guys need me for anything in reference to how we can help, how we can better America, I'm on board.
Well, we definitely appreciate those powerful, impacting words from both Kenny and Mark. They will definitely be taken in deeply, I know, by each and every one of us, as well as our listeners. As a unit, you guys displayed the brotherhood that we all need in this country at this moment, and it was shown no other time than just recently when Michael began to make the phone calls and talk to each and every one of you. And we didn't want the show to be this big. But guess what happened? This coach said, well, man, if you ain't got but that many spots, then take me out and call him. And one of the other players said, well, man, I can't go on the show if you don't call him too. So he can take my spot. Yeah. And that's the kind of brotherhood that we need in our country. A guy not worried about, you know, what color or what creed or what he eats or what he likes. It's all about that guy. I'll step behind so that guy can move forward. And the love that you guys showed, that you displayed to Michael, I said, man, we got to have everybody. We got to have them all. As many as want to come, we're going to put all of them in there and let the chips fall where they may. So we appreciate you guys, man. And we really, you know, honor you, honor Coach Schnellenberger. And we know that all you guys were an integral part back in 1983. And you also are helping us as a country right now in 2020. We really appreciate you.
K-Lou, I want to just jump in. You said something that spoke to me, and I'll just, if you don't mind. Dr. King said this quote: "We need leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity." And what you said, it just resonated with me so profound. I just want to jump in and say that.
Well, again, guys, we've had you on here a very long time, so we gonna say good night to you, and we appreciate you guys. We love you, and for MB and K-Lou, sideline to baseline, we are out of here.
Take care, guys. Thank you, man. You, baby, throw up the you, throw up that you, throw it to you. It's all about the you. It's all.